Greetings and salutations, everyone. You're listening to Mama Rue's Ancestral Musings. This is a podcast about all things Blackness with an ancestral point of view. I hope everybody's been doing well since we last spoke. And for those of you who are sensitive to that old nasty ragweed, ooh, my heart goes out to you guys because over here where I am, it was fall, like real true fall for a hot minute, but the past couple of days, the summertime said, nah, bitch, you said the door. And we said, hell no, we ain't going. And so these past couple of really hot days, you know, the ragweed pollen has decided to kick it up a little bit. And man, I'm over here with the old nasty sinus headache and all that mess. But I'm real excited despite feeling quite uncomfortable. I'm so excited, you guys. And the reason why is because we have declared the month of October as Hoodoo Heritage Month. And today is October 1st. So happy first day of Hoodoo Heritage Month, everybody. Yes. Do we really need like a day or a month to celebrate us? No, not really, but why the fuck not? Okay, why not? We already pretty much celebrate our history every day of the year, even though we do it real big during February, right? So just think of it, think of it like that. Like I'm Hoodoo 365, 24/7. And I know that many of you are too, but why not just declare the whole damn month of October as ours, as Hoodoo people, doing it for our culture, doing it for our children, our families, our communities. Why not? So we're going to celebrate this first day of Hoodoo Heritage Month, kicking it off with expressions of Black joy. Okay, at least that's how I like to do it. You are free to do it any way that you see fit. All right, any way that you see fit. But we're kind of like brainstorming on what to do for specific days. And a small group of us declared the third Thursday of the month of October as John the Conqueror Day. Yeah, so I believe it falls on the 17th. All right, so you've got plenty of time to prepare. If you don't already have a nice little honoring space or altar for the spirit of John the Conqueror, go ahead and let this be some inspiration for you to start putting that together. Okay, go ahead and make a little space where you can burn them purple and gold candles. Yes, now I do know that in the spiritual supply shops, in the botanicas, they do have John the Conqueror candles. Those are the big pillar candles encased in glass. All right. And they tend to come in different colors, and they have a picture of this kind of Caucasian looking king on them and whatever. And that's fine. Okay. But if you can get you some purple and gold, it doesn't matter what kind, purple and gold. If you've got white, that's fine too. Okay. I've been working with John the Conqueror spirit for many years now, and he will accept white candles too. The spirit loves his spirits, y'all. Gin, Tennessee or Irish whiskey, and rum tend to be on the top of the list, but he will take some good old Crown Royal, especially if you gift him the beautiful flannel Crown Royal bag, which is purple and gold. So purple and gold, okay, are wonderful to honor the spirit of John the Conqueror. Give him some of that good old tobacco. Any type of tobacco is good. Okay? Cigarettes are fine. Pinch snuff, no problem. Pipes, pipe tobacco, absolutely. Cigars and cigarillos, no problem. You want to give him a black and mild? Give him a black and mild. Okay? Do it. And honor the power and the glory of John the Conqueror, especially when you honor him as the spirit of Black liberation and protection, particularly protection against the white power construct we know as white supremacy. Yes. So it kind of looks weird when you see white people talking about John the Conqueror, especially trying to carry John the Conqueror. And I have it on good authority that a few of them experience bad luck when they do so. Nobody really cares to understand why that might be, but it is what it is. So I kicked off first day of Hoodoo Heritage Month by sharing expressions of Black joy in both images and in video. Okay, so I shared some artwork, some photographs, and a video clip from a movie called The Sweet Blood of Jesus, the original one, not the remake by Spike Lee, but the original film that was done in 1941, I believe. And in the particular clip, it was a scene that took place at a juke joint. Now it's obvious that this is staged. This isn't like an actual, video capture of what happens inside the Black juke joints, but because everybody is just looking so good in it, and it represents our people from another era, you know what I'm saying? And they doing their thing inside the juke joint. I just thought it was a cute little thing to share as an expression of Black joy. The other thing that I shared was a photograph of a group of Black people that seems to have been taken in the late 60s or sometime in the early 70s. Somebody shared this photo a long time ago on Facebook, and they didn't know the photographer, but I saved that photo. I love that photo so much. All the sisters are wearing like African head wraps and things like that, and they're dancing. And the expressions on their faces, it's just, they look like they serious. They look like they're all in deep thought, but it's a party scene, and it's Black joy. It's Black magic. Speaking of Black magic, I shared another piece of art from the Harlem Renaissance painter and artist Aaron Douglas. Okay, he made a whole collection of pieces that dealt with the Negro in African sort of settings or environments. And the one that I shared just happens to be titled The Negro in an African Setting. And I love his work so much. I've, trolled the different auction sites and whatever on the internet. And sadly, I cannot afford to own an original piece at this point in time. But I was able to make do. Oh yes, I found an early edition book that is complete with several illustrations of Aaron Douglas's from that collection. And the book is an early printing of Black magic by this white Frenchman named Paul Moran. Now, Paul Moran is a problematic individual, okay? He happened to be a fascist of all things, all right? But what's so interesting about this book, and I haven't finished reading it, is that it seems to be pro-Black people and anti-white people. Okay, now the book is called Black Magic, and people will probably think, oh, it's some sort of treatise on Black magic, on the, acts of Black magic, on the history of Black magic, on the practices of Black magic. Not so much. This is more or less a loose fictional account of Black people, both in the United States, the diaspora, and on the continent. Okay, and each of the little vignettes that are included in this book deal with magic and sorcery and spirituality of African and African descendant people. For example, in one of the little vignettes, it's very obvious that the female character that he's describing is loosely based on Josephine Baker. Now, it's very possible, that he was a contemporary of Josephine Baker's in France, during the 30s, or the 20s in this case, because her name is in fact mentioned in the book, but it seems like this female that he's describing is in fact Josephine Baker. And in that particular vignette, she comes across this conjure doctor, and there's a ceremony, and there's, magic and stuff. And again, you know, take it with a grain of salt, because again, this is an outsider perspective writing about it. However, what I personally notice when white folks write or have written about blackness and Afrocentrism and Africanity and all these kinds of things, I noticed that the European white people have a different approach, a different attitude, and a different perspective. They can still be hateful and racist, but they still seem to give Africans their respect. Whereas here in America, that tended to not be the case. Okay, that's why when you read things written by white Americans about hoodoo and the people involved in hoodoo, it tends to be very hateful, very denigrating, and very racist. Okay, so yeah, black magic all day, every day. All right, so I shared one of those illustrations, one of my favorites from the collection, a Negro in an African setting. I shared it on my Instagram, and I shared the video clip from Sweet Blood of Jesus, seen in the juke joint, on my Facebook page, as well as that photograph of black folks at this party. Okay, it's such a wonderful picture, and the caption that I originally wrote with it and reshared is, "You don't feel it, it feels you." And what I meant by that is the spirit, the power, the wonder, the essence of our African ancestors, creative divine, and the powerful divine forces of nature. Okay, so I just think that this is something that is important for us to celebrate, to honor, to take part of, you know, to share, and share it widely, you guys, because separating hoodoo out from us and diminishing it to just magic tricks and so-called witchcraft and spells and sorcery and all like that is a huge, huge injustice. Hoodoo is our culture, and everything that basically illustrates our culture is hoodoo. We are hoodoo. That's saying that we are aware that we are made up of different African ethnicities and tribal groups, etc. Okay? I'd be really, really, really surprised and awestruck if a Black American person has only one African ethnic group in their DNA. Okay? I mean, that would just, I don't think it exists. Okay? But if you can, challenge that and prove me wrong, I'm welcome to that. Okay? I'm welcome to that. So, what we do have are individuals who have very little to no non-African blood in their DNA. All right? Shout out to my stepmother, my baby sister's mom. She did her DNA, and basically all of her mom's DNA is African. Okay? And that's a blessing, so shout out to those of you who can say the same. Okay? But by and large, most of us, our blood is tainted with, Masson. And so, but anyway, that's no reason to feel sad. We can still celebrate the Blackness that we have, right? Righteously. And Black Hoodoo Heritage Month for the month of October. And we're going to just get together and nail down other specific days of observance. And I've already given you one. Okay, October 17th for High John the Conqueror, or John the Conqueror, for honoring and celebrating him. And we're going to share, some good things within reason. I say within reason because there are some things about this spirit that don't necessarily need to be put out into the public view. All right? Yeah. Some things can be, held sacred, and that's very, very important. There's a discussion going on right now as I speak about the need for this to be a closed system. And I'm just so, so proud of the individuals who are taking part of that discussion and who are advocating for the tradition, advocating for their ancestors, drawing those lines in the sand and saying no. Okay, this isn't just some free for all that you can come in and exploit for your personal gain. You're talking about history. You're talking about our relatives. You're talking about, our future generations here. We're not going to let them just be diminished just because you want to learn a few tricks. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just so glad that there are others out there who are advocating on behalf of our ancestral truths and on behalf of our ancestors themselves and on behalf of our culture. Hoodoo is our culture. And as I said before, it is at the center of the entire Black American experience. Okay? It just hid itself real nice from the wider view, and I've touched on that in previous episodes. Okay, it did sort of put a disparagement against the word or several of the words. Okay, hoodoo and voodoo mainly. A lot of our elders of a certain age don't want no parts of them their words, including my mama. She don't want you calling what she does hoodoo or voodoo. Okay, they tend to slap that label on another person who they see doing dark stuff or bad stuff or evil stuff, vis-a-vis the so-called witch and witchcraft. Okay, but it got a bad rap. Why? And I said this before, Black people were at a point where they were jujuing themselves and doing hoodoo on each other for a matter of self-preservation and to survive. So a lot of the negative things, got labeled with those words. But we are reclaiming hoodoo. We're reclaiming American voodoo. All right? It's a new day. And speaking of reclaiming, we really need more people to understand the importance of differentiating what is traditional as far as, our people are concerned and our past and our history versus what isn't. All right. So there was a post that I posted on Facebook, and it was a meme, about how an ancestor, you call yourself, you're making offerings to your ancestors, and they look at you like you lost your damn mind, And the caption I wrote is, when your black asses try to burn Chinese hell notes for your ancestral offering. And I know that a lot of Black folks do it, but I need people to understand why they're doing it. That's not traditional to our culture. That's not traditional to our history. Our ancestors don't know what that is. However, our friends over at the Sucky Donuts decided, they collect other cultures' things for good luck, things for warding off evil. They have basically cherry picked all these different things, including how different cultures honor their ancestors. So they take whatever they can sell from those cultures and throw them up on their little online store and in their little shop. And everybody thinks that it's hoodoo. Why? Because they basically put themselves out there as, the number one place to go for all your hoodoo needs, right? And the majority of the things that they sell and merchandise is related to hoodoo. So if you see some non-hoodoo things being put out there for sale, the average person is going to think that that's a part of hoodoo. And it's not their fault. Okay? It's the appropriator's fault. They don't want you to look at what they're doing as appropriating. Even though I had a Chinese person, give me the whole 411 on how it is burning Chinese hell notes. It is appropriation. There are whole ass ceremonies involved with that, but the appropriator does, and the marketeer ain't gonna get into all of that with you. They just want you to buy their shit. Okay? And it just hurts my heart when I see us going along and empowering this person, by saying, yeah, I burn Chinese hell notes for my ancestors. Well, my thing is this. If your ancestors like it, I love it. Just don't call it tradition to hoodoo. That's it. That's all. There's tons of stuff that I put down to honor my ancestors that I'm not going to put under the brand of hoodoo, because why? It's not a part of Black history or Black American culture. Okay, a whole half of who I am belongs to a totally different ethnic group. So certain things that I do to honor those ancestors, I'm not going to slap the label hoodoo on it. It might look very similar to hoodoo. And as a matter of fact, a lot of my father's people's practices are very, very, very close to what we know about voodoo. Talking about, African and Haitian voodoo, for example. Lots of similarities. Okay? But just because they are similar doesn't mean I'm going to slap the label voodoo on them when they already have their own name. You know what I'm saying? Their practices already have a name. Okay? And they are specific to the people of that particular village of South India. So if you ever come to my house and you see some things, that's not hoodoo. That's just me honoring my father's ancestors. Okay? That's why I'm real careful not to share a lot of shit when it comes to, images and things about what I do, because I'm not trying to confuse anyone. Listen, this is a very, very special and vulnerable time for us. Okay, and this whole process of reclamation and restoration is very, very vulnerable. All right, so what we need to do is develop stronger associations, bonds, and relationships with our American-born ancestors, so that way we can have that little bit of intuition and discernment when something comes across our view. Just because the folks, pushing it, peddling it, talking about it, or doing it look like us doesn't necessarily mean this is tradition to our ancestors. Now, of course, the other side of that is that things will change, okay? African people and their practices are not static, all right? That's just impossible. So things are always going to adapt and change, but we have to be very careful about what we are bringing in for inclusion, okay, that already has a whole ass history going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years with a whole ass other culture that we don't have proximity to at all. At all. Just because we might love us some egg foo young and some goddamn crab rangoon every now and then, doesn't mean we have proximity to the Chinese culture. Now, food is a great way to introduce yourselves to other cultures. That's my favorite way, to be honest. But just because I like to eat a certain culture's cuisine doesn't give me the right to go and just take their spiritual practices and make them my own, when my ancestors are not of that particular culture. It isn't right. We don't like it when they do it to us. So how the fuck we turn around doing it to others, right? Let's not be hypocrites here, okay? Let's be righteous with our shit. Let's be right and respectful, all right? We want people to respect us and our ancestors. We're going to have to be able to give it back to others at the same time. It works both ways, you guys, okay? So when I make these little posts poking fun at folks that burn the hell notes and shit, it's out of love, you guys. I've had people actually unfriend me and block me over saying similar things. I make fun of this shit all the time. And I don't understand why people get so upset when I do that. Listen, roasting and the dozens and clapping back, that's a part of Black culture. It's the one thing that makes our gatherings around the holidays with families and friends so fucking lit and memorable. Shit. God damn, if anybody tries to erase that part of our goddamn culture and history, shit, don't do it. But for whatever reason, folks are real sensitive these days. And they don't take shit in love. They don't take it for fun. They don't take it for jest. They take it as if, goddamn, you attack me, so this is how I'm going to respond. And they respond in a very emotional way. Like, I don't know y'all. Okay, what kind of people is y'all? I don't get it. If someone can explain that to me, I'd really appreciate it, because I just don't get it. And if I've ever said anything that rubbed you the wrong way, hurt your feelings, and you still decided to rock with me, I love you, okay? Thank you for giving me a chance, all right? Because I say what I say. I love us so, so much, you guys. And I love our ancestors. And just please understand where I'm coming from. When I make light of things, when I poke at things, it's not to attack anybody. I really am trying to teach you something underneath all of that, okay? So, yeah, you guys, Hoodoo Heritage Month. So, put on your thinking caps and just think, what would you like to put out there in honor of Hoodoo Heritage Month? Now, be very careful, okay? Don't be putting our good secrets out there, all right? Because we don't know who's on the receiving end of the things that we share on our social media platforms. So do be savvy, right? And be, just very, very conscientious about what you put out there. Because we are moving closer and closer to our spiritual practices becoming closed systems. All right, now for me, they've already kind of been that way. All right, because after looking at what the appropriators and the marketeers are doing, I see like they maybe have a good 30% of it down where it's actually historically correct, but the rest of it is invalid, it's untrue, or it's half truths mixed with lies, or it's revisionist history altogether. So that other 70%, I'd rather, instead of calling them out publicly about why they're wrong and why this is imperfect and why this is incomplete and why this is, historically incorrect and blah, 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 I don't care about them not getting it right. I'd rather they get it the fuck wrong, okay? And I want us to be the ones that get it right, okay? And this whole social media thing makes it kind of tricky. It makes it tricky. For example, walking to the Kenga is for those of us who are descendants of formerly enslaved Africans here in this land, all right? United States of America, right? So it's kind of tricky, trying to put that out there and you get slapped with, oh my God, they're being discriminatory, they're being racist, they won't let it, blah, blah, blah. Everybody wants to do that to you when you try to create safe Black spaces. Somebody always gets upset instead of respecting the real reason why there's a need to do that, because of the sense of entitlement and all that other shit that goes on with white folks. They can't help themselves, okay? So they're the ones who are the ones out there flagging your posts and getting your page shut down and reporting you to this person and kicking you out groups and yada, 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 because they can't help but feel and operate on that sense of entitlement. Even without even really thinking about it, it's just automatic. It's like they can't help it. It's just the way that they move. Even the most liberal of our so-called allies are guilty of doing the same. Okay? And it's just like, be careful. All right? I don't care how friendly you are and you manage to say all the right things that make it look like you are just this textbook cookie cutter great ally. And this isn't just white people, it's all non-Black people. They have to be very, very careful. Okay? Because at some point or another, they will expose themselves and their sense of entitlement to all things Blackness. Case in point, a couple of weeks ago, somebody who has built up a great reputation for being an ally made a post that spoke to the history of conditioned oils. And it was wrong. It was ahistorical as fuck. And it was wrong. And what was bad about the post, that it wasn't that they were just trying to say, I know about this history and here's what I know. They were trying to justify doing things under the banner of hoodoo, okay? Because they're making money off of conditioned oils, okay? They're making money off. It don't matter what you call them. You want to call them magic oils, witchy oils, perfume oils. It doesn't matter, all right? Everybody knows that that's hoodoo shit. Okay, so to put something out there to make it look like, you have to justify these things, so that ain't nobody gonna come at you, ain't nobody's ancestors gonna come at you, or whatever the case may be. No, that just spoke totally to that person's entitlement to exploit black people's traditions for financial gain. Okay? And it was really sad to see, because they're so outspoken any other time about the number one appropriator and exploitator of black spiritual traditions. They go hard in the paint against that person, but then they want to turn around and do the same thing that that person is doing. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't need fucking allies, okay? I don't. You know, you feel the way you feel, fine, great, more power to you. We can talk as friends, that's fine, that's great, but don't be disrespectful to me or my ancestors or to the black cultural historical experience, period. Okay? So I have we just had an oil class this past Sunday. It was the third in that first 3-pack of courses that are being held in the group. And we broke down the whole African continuum of oils. Okay? The practices of oils did not start in the United States in Hoodoo. It started across the Atlantic Ocean on the continent of Africa, and many examples were given on how different groups utilize oils, much in the same way that our American-born African descendant ancestors did in the tradition known as root working and root doctoring and conjuring. Okay? It is a solid African continuum. It is not something that was started by somebody's old Italian witchy grandmama back in the day, okay, or somebody's so-called mythical black grandmama or great grandmama back in the day who used an oil lamp for whatever reason, okay? We bust up all of that bullshit in the class, okay? The classes that I do are mostly about the reclamation and the restoration by showing the historical facts and truth of our spiritual practices that nobody else bothers with talking about, because they'd rather you not talk about it. Because if too many people were to put these things out there, then it kind of looks stupid. It would totally diminish the appropriators, the marketeers, and the exploitation folks. It would totally diminish what they're trying to do. So no, they either are ignorant of it, and that's why they don't talk about it, or they are aware of it, but they choose not to talk about it because now they look like idiots. Okay? They look like what they really are. Thieves and people who are trying to capitalize and profit and exploit another people's traditions for monetary gain. All right? But that's not why we're doing what we're doing. We're doing it for us, aren't we? Yes, we're doing it for us because there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about our tradition. I already spoke on one of them, okay, which is about hoodoo in the church. Okay? The majority of our traditional spiritual workers happen to be church-going people. And I made a distinction between indoctrinated Christians and church-going Christians. The majority of us tend to fall in the latter group. Okay? But the perception by everybody else is that they're all the same. Okay? But I need to make a point of correction. When I said that the indoctrinated Christians were the ones who are, separated out from our root culture, that was wrong, you guys. They are some of the strongest, more powerful workers in our spiritual tradition, those indoctrinated ones. And it's all about semantics. Yes, they are using flowery religious language. They're substituting ancestors with the Holy Ghost. They're substituting, God with whatever the ancestors call God, right? And we went through some of those names during Walking to the Kenga Day 2 when we did our ancestral celebration. We called those names out on behalf of the ancestors who were made to give that up, okay? And we did it for them, all right? So even our indoctrinated churchy people, Christians, they're still hoodoo. They're still practicing the tradition. They just don't want you coming at them with the semantics. That's the only difference. Okay? So again, when you speak to your elders, don't write them off because they are Bible thumpers. Don't go to them talking about what you know about this here hoodoo and root work. The best way to get answers and a dialogue and a conversation and maybe even some teaching is to ask them about the healing modalities that they saw or did growing up as children. What did the old folks do when you were a little kid? When someone got a cold, when someone got the flu, when someone had worms. Okay, start there. Start there. And I guarantee you, you're going to walk away with a little something. You sure will. You absolutely will, I promise you. All right? So Hoodoo Heritage Month today is all about Black joy, even though I'm not feeling very joyful. Okay? My sinuses won't let me be great, you guys. But my spirit is unbound. You hear me? My spirit is unbound. My spirit is doing cartwheels and back flips. My spirits are doing the Lindy Hop. Yes. I feel so great. I feel so inspired. I feel so excited. And I cannot wait to see what all of you come up with on your end to celebrate the month of October as Hoodoo Heritage Month. All right? And I especially can't wait to see what you guys do on the 17th in honor of our wonderful ancestor spirit, John the Conqueror. All right? Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and read you guys a post that I came across by Sister Chelsea Neeson on Facebook that really resonated with me. And I'm going to read it to you now. It's not vengeance to me when anti-Black people find out there is more Black DNA in them than they realize. Blackness isn't a punishment or a curse I'm happy to drag my enemies down into with me. It's an exclusive society. I'm sitting here with my champagne glass and a stank face wondering how you got into this club. Did one of you riff-raff force their way in? Or did one of our members sneak in an outsider? Either way, you don't deserve entry. And I'm probably way more irritated about that discovery than you are. And that is Sister Chelsea Neeson. And when I read that post, I immediately asked her, can I quote you? Because I totally understand that. You've got, racist folks, mainly white folks, who, look at having African DNA in their tree as a source of shame and disgust or whatever, and then we look at them and laugh and snicker and ha ha ha, further mitigating, that guilt and shame. But what the sister is trying to say is, nah, fuck that shit. I'm just as upset about the shit as you are. Okay? So I'm not gonna see, you, because then I'm sort of co-opting the sentiment that it is in fact a reason to feel shamed. And it isn't. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay? And this is kind of like on the opposite spectrum of those individuals, who claim to be, pro-black and, down for the cause and anti-racist and this, that, and the third, they're basically pandering to us, but at the same time want to slick be exploiting our shit with our blessing on top of it. Okay? And then, to sweeten the pot, they want to throw in some mythical black great-great-grandmother or great-great-auntie by marriage or whoever the case. You know what I'm saying? To make it feel like it's okay, How is that any different from the white person who's racist trying to, diminish their racism by saying, hey, but I got a black friend. And they're usually talking about somebody they just happen to work with at the job. Not a friend at all. Just because y'all might, get together for sports shit at the sports bar, y'all get the point. It's the same goddamn thing. And I need folks to be a little bit more conscientious of that before they start, inviting people to the goddamn cookout. Okay? God damn. I mean, we too easy like that. We too fucking easy. We want to be hardcore about all these other goddamn things. But when it comes to letting folks in who don't deserve their entry, it's just too fucking easy. Well, I'm here to tell you, that's how our African ancestors got. Don't you understand? They got by fucking useless, cheap-ass trinkets. That's how slavery happened. So let's not keep perpetuating the bullshit, you guys, okay? Don't do it. Check yourselves and check others with love when you see them doing it too. All right? So now, we're closing ranks, y'all. Yes, we are closing ranks. We are putting triple, double, quadruple locks on the dough. We have canceled the motherfucking cookout. Okay? We stopped black-splaining. Okay? We let them go ahead and say their erroneous shit. You know what I'm saying? We stopped talking about them and they fuckery and foolishness in these goddamn groups, on social media and they YouTube. We don't care about them dumb shits anymore. We care more about us and our ancestors, and we're putting all that energy behind that part. Okay? But please don't find yourselves out in these internet streets calling yourself correcting one of them on our shit by giving them the good. Don't do it. Okay? Shout out to my sister Zora Neale Twerkson for doing the good Lord's work. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Don't be out there making a fool out of yourself in front of your ancestors and your sisters and brothers out in these internet streets talking about, that's not what John the Conqueror Root is for. Let them go ahead on and think what they think. Okay, they're in our group, in our little class study group, we're breaking down all the shits. Where the appropriators and the marketeers get it wrong. Okay? I'm not ever going to put that stuff out in public because I don't want them to see the real shit. I want them to keep, going along with the bullshit because they got it for a reason. Okay? At first, it used to piss me off and make me irritated. And I'd be like, God damn it, that's not even true because my ancestors told me it wasn't. But rather than call them out publicly on that shit, my ancestors was like, no, daughter. Shh. Hold your tongue. Or in this case, your typing fingers. Hold and let it go. They don't need to be corrected in this case. That information was for our children and our children only. And we'd like for you to keep it that way. So I'm going to honor and respect them by keeping these things secret. Because the sacredness of our practices has been diminished, trodden down upon. It is up to us, the ancestors' children, to restore it back to its original glory. All right? And position in our lives. All right? So on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. Happy Hoodoo Heritage Month to all of you. And I'm going to wish you love, peace, and powerful juju.